Welcome everyone to the traditional leadership with Nilendra. Today I have a very special guest. She's actually a double DTN and also she has got into a spiritual path. So it's a really amazing and also a privilege for me to have her in this podcast today. So her name is Radhe Krishna. Welcome Radha to the.
Nilendra.
So, can you explain how did you get into public speaking and how did it help uh, to your leadership and spiritual journey? And also, how communication and spirituality help leading a community and youth?
Okay, let's break down that question. I'll start by saying how I got into public speaking in the first place. I had practiced teaching at an adult college, and I had actually excelled at university and loved the idea of learning. For me, I'm a lifelong student, and personal development is important for me. However, I was also a bit of a hermit. Apart from my partner at the time, I didn't engage with many friends, and none of my family was in Adelaide. So my partner used to disappear every Wednesday night into the city, and he would come home raving about public speaking. I wasn't actually that interested, but it sounded like a group that seemed to have a lot of fun. So one night I went along to Toastmasters, and it was purely because I didn't feel like spending time on my own at home that night. But when I did go there, I could see how engaging public speaking was. My very first speech that I listened to was of a young man who talked about his mother who had committed suicide and how he was struggling to cope with life. And I immediately felt a strong empathetic pull and could see that public speaking was not just for educational purposes, like for me being a teacher in the past, but it was also a potential personal development for future growth. And since hearing his speech, I joined Toastmasters, the public speaking organization, and the rest is history. So how did it help in my leadership journey? Now, I contribute my involvement and progress in Toastmasters directly to gaining my promotion at work. I know 100% that I wouldn't have gotten my job promotion if it wasn't for being able to speak publicly. Through public speaking, I became a confident and connecting speaker, and I'm able to articulate my thoughts and needs and interpret those needs of the listener and the audience as well. So besides work where I'm now a manager for the Department of Veteran Affairs, I am also a leader in the Toastmaster community. I mentor other people who are new on the journey, and I help guide them through their challenges. I also have taken up the role of Central Division Director this year, which means that I'm responsible for 23 clubs in South Australia, another leadership opportunity. So how has this helped my spiritual journey? For me, energy transcends into thoughts, thoughts transcend into emotions, and emotions transcend into actions and behavior. Therefore, communication and leadership, the two aspects of Toastmasters, have been fundamental to my spiritual journey. Communication, translating my internal thought processes and inspecting what I think and filtering what I believe is important as a key way of progressing in meditation. I have been, it's great being able to validate my decisions, and it's given me encouragement on my chosen path, which is the path of devotion. So through communication and publicly speaking, I've talked about my struggles and challenges, that I have overcome, and hopefully my stories can be an inspiration to others.
Wonderful, Elizabeth. Also, now you are a double DTA.
Yes.
That is distinguished Toastmaster. What is distinguished Toastmaster and what is double distinguished Toastmaster? Can you explain about that? I mean, for
Sure.
me, even when I first joined to Toastmasters, people were saying, "Oh, the double DTM Toastmaster Elizabeth Owen. You were Elizabeth Owen back then." So,
Yes.
can you
Yeah,
explain
look,
about that?
okay, so in Toastmasters, we don't just get up and give random speeches. We do have an education program that we follow. And the education program consists of both communication, i.e., giving speeches, but it also involves taking on leadership roles, not only within the club, but within the district, and being able to be a mentor or sponsor for other clubs. So when you complete the education program in Toastmasters, you become known as a DTM or a distinguished Toastmaster. So in the Toastmasters recently changed its education program after a period of 40 years of being the same. So I completed one DTM in the traditional education program, and I've also completed one DTM in the new Pathways program. So I've basically completed every single path in the whole of the education program across 11 pathways. So I feel as though I've been able to integrate and learn a lot through the education program. So yeah, where to from here? Who knows?
Wonderful, Elizabeth. I feel guilty now because I hardly give prepared speeches or the speeches in the pathway.
Yeah, in
So,
total, I've given over 200 speeches.
oh, that's a lot of speeches.
It
Yeah, I
is,
haven't
it
given.
is.
Probably I've given maybe 10 speeches for now, or less
Yeah,
than that.
okay.
Maybe eight. Maybe eight.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've seen a
I'm
couple
sure
of
that
those speeches.
I'm sure you have enjoyed them.
Yes.
And also, I don't think that I can outcompete that double DT title of yours.
It's become a bit of a joke, in terms of, people saying it affectionately, but yeah, what it does mean is that I can be a mentor for other people coming through, newer people in the clubs. And if they have any questions, I can guide them and help them and offer the support that they need to get themselves giving speeches.
Wonderful, Elizabeth. So how the meditation, I know that you are a devoted meditator. So how
Mm.
the meditation has helped your speaking, public speaking, and also uh, the leadership skills all together. How can that help you?
Okay, to me, meditation has been a process of tapping into the essence of who I am. To me, I'm a spiritual being first and foremost, and I'm a physical being, a temporary physical being, and I have a temporary mind, and I have a temporary emotion. So to
Everyone has
me,
temporary minds.
yeah, and so for
Mind
me,
instantly
meditation is
changes.
the way um to embrace and celebrate my spirituality, and to tap into the qualities of love, joy, peace, courage that are within this core of my heart, and being able to share those and experience those on a daily basis. And I think often we can get drawn into the world of duality, the world of physicality, and sometimes we do need to stop, sit down, close our eyes, and just concentrate on coming back to the breath, coming back to the center of who we are, And that's when we tap into those emotions. They're not really emotions, but they're more qualities. The qualities of love is and compassion, which is something that is life enhancing.
Yeah, so the mind is always changing. Everyone's mind is always changing, and
Yes,
everyone's physicality is always changing. It's not a constant thing. So
yes.
if you take a person who has gone to the jail after stealing something, he
Mm.
can be a better person again because mind is changing. If not, he'll be a thief forever, or
Yeah, look, I think we're not defined by our behavior. I think we do certain actions which we are responsible for, but ultimately it doesn't define who we are as a person. And I think this comes back to a lot of people have a personality, or what I call an ego. And for me, an ego is the desiring personality, which includes our likes and dislikes, but also our behaviors. So coming back to that example of the person who has stolen something and is in jail, they've stolen because they have strong desires, needs and wants that they have, and that's what's created the situation where they're in. But the personality limits our view of reality by seeing the world through the lens of duality. And in a way, our behavior or our ego is a mask in a way. And the antidote to ego, to me, has always been service. Being able to be of service to other people and putting other people's well-being above my own has been a process of letting that ego go, and not be so prominent, and being able to be of service is a big factor in helping other people. And is meditation the highest form of service of all? That's to me, that's a question that I've asked myself.
I think meditation, in my opinion, is one of the solutions
Yeah.
because you can understand how things works better in meditation. So it's all
Yes.
about understanding. Uh, so if I explain ego, or the cause or the reason for the ego is
Mm.
the discrimination.
Mm.
So the reason for discrimination is for the greediness. So there's five kind of greediness. So the greediness for
Mm.
houses in the sense, the things, the materialistic houses that you have, and your body
Mm.
itself, it's a house. And then
Mm.
where are you from? Like from Australian, Sri Lankan, or Chinese, American. So that's one
Mm.
kind of a greediness. And the other
Mm.
kind of a greediness is what you do, like you're an engineer or doctor, or so it breaks down to that. And also it breaks down to actually five uh, greedinesses. Uh,
Mm.
so it's like where you come from, like my father did this or my mom did this. So so it's ultimately it's connected to the greediness. So the reason
Mm.
for is discrimination. Uh,
Mm.
so how do you explain what is do you agree with it, or how do you view it? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I use different terminology, but I agree with the concept of what you're saying. To me, rather than discrimination, I talk about personality, the actual identities, the false identities that we put on ourselves. For example, our cultural identity, our gender identity, our professional identity. All the things that you've basically just said are false views of ourselves, and that in a way that is discrimination, because we are discriminating and coming to conclusions that are not actually true, that are not reality, because each one of those discriminations you can actually inspect you can actually inspect and remove the, it's temporary. It's a temporary thing. So it's not a reality in and of itself.
So because of the ego, the egos people having, they lose the
Mm,
sensory discipline.
mm,
For instance, when you're going on a road, or if you going on a road, or someone looks at you, you think, "Oh my
mm,
God, that person looks at you." And how do you
mm,
know that? Because you looks at the other person.
mm,
Then when more people looks at you, then you get
mm,
this ego. Oh, maybe I'm good looking. This is how most of the people get egos. So when they
mm,
get ego like this, then they
mm.
lose the sensory discipline and they start. It goes as a cycle. Uh,
Yeah.
so this is one of the consequences. So when you lose the sensory discipline, you lose your intelligence. How do you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah, look, I think the senses are the biggest discriminatory qualities that we have. When we see something, we always see it in duality. So we're always seeing it in either a like or a dislike. I'm attracted to that, or I'm repulsed by that. Or we have the same kind of discrimination with our tongue and with our ears and with our nose. But to me, so sensory input is very interesting to meditate on and to find how that is connected with the ego. But for me, the more I have meditated, the more I realize that I don't know whether you believe this, but I actually believe that there's karma and past imprints that we have that impact on our ego. And partly that's being able to because we react compulsively to situations through the input of the senses, we react rather than respond. And I think that is what causes the ego, our desires and the senses working together.
So, what do you mean by past karma? Is it the karma that you have done in this life, or do you believe in the previous lives as well?
Yeah, look, I have had experiences in meditation where I have glimpsed at not just things that I've done that kind of makes sense in this life that I've done that maybe have not been as authentic as what they could have been. But I also believe that we do have a past karma that we bring into this life as well, and yeah, that also impacts our ego.
Wonderful.
Do you
That's a
agree
great.
with that, or do you have a different opinion?
I have the same experiences in my meditation, so I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with my experiences, and also I agree with my believing as well. So
yeah, okay,
yeah. So what I believe, it's a believing, but when you experience it by yourself, it's no longer
yes,
believing. It's it's real. So you have to
absolutely,
experience it. In order to
yes,
experience it, you have to have
mm,
the believing first. So
yes,
I had the believing first, then I experienced it through meditation. Now it's no longer a believing even. I have the believing and plus I know it's real. So yes, I
yeah.
believe in my past lives. So we discussed ego and how it starts, how to reduce it, how to overcome it. Antidote for ego. This is a wonderful insights from you again. Uh, Now, how do you explain the loving kindness? So in meditation, most people talk about loving kindness. What is loving kindness for you?
For me, loving kindness is a sense of devotion, overwhelming devotion, and a sense of oneness with the universe, a transaction with what is happening. And to me, that is the epitome of loving kindness, in a way that love is an interactional energy that we get. It's not just interactions between you and me or other people. It's also between me and my spirit, my soul, my essence. So loving kindness is something that is, to me, the ultimate quality that we strive to achieve. The issue comes in where people want a grasping kind of love from others and don't necessarily really want to engage in loving kindness in itself. Sometimes loving kindness can mean being truthful to the other person, or to sharing a way that you can actually grow as a person. Sometimes some people just want to hear what works for them, and maintain their level of suffering. And so sometimes loving kindness can get misinterpreted. But for me, loving kindness is the emotion, is the quality that I feel in my heart, that is something that is a sense of wholeness and oneness. And it is the most beautiful emotion or quality that I try and share with other people. But I try to do it in such a way that it doesn't become overwhelming to the other person, that there is a sense of respect between the other people.
Loving kindness, can it be more for one person or less for another person, or is it the
Loving
same for
kindness.
everyone?
Yeah, look, I think loving kindness is I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. For me, loving kindness is it, like I said, is devotion, is felt as devotion. Some people may feel loving kindness as a strength or as courage. Some other people may see loving kindness as this deep, overwhelming peace that they feel. For others, it may be bliss and joy. So I think loving kindness, the quality of loving kindness is within each and every person, but everybody has a unique view on what that means to them, and their special gifts of sharing that loving kindness in their own unique way.
And can you do the loving kindness or loving kindness meditation for yourself, or can you only do it for others? How does that work?
Yeah, look, for me, I go to a meditation group, and a part of that meditation is offering loving kindness to the world. For me, everything is energy. I'm made up of energy, and the universe has a transactional energy about it. And without sounding too esoteric, I honestly think that we are only scratching the surface in terms of science, in understanding how thoughts can impact other people, and how it actually impacts the world. And I think loving kindness can be transmitted, and it can be something that we can give ourselves and tap into to have that sense of self ourselves. But we can also give prayers, or we can be in meditation where we think of others with that same loving kindness.
Okay. So the loving kindness, how I believe, is that you think that all the living beings be happy minded, in a happy mind. So you think that in your mind that all the
Mm,
others will be happy minded. You're not
mm,
you're not thinking about yourself but others.
mm,
And can you if I do the meditation like this way, if someone else does the same thing,
mm.
can it be the same loving kindness, or can it be different, or the energies are different? It is different because then again it goes to the discrimination. So if you are attached in groups,
Mm,
you cannot have same kind of loving kindness, or may all living beings be happy minded. When you say that, if you are attached in a group, you think only that group is happy minded, only the engineers will be happy minded, or only
yeah.
the, so then it's you cannot have that same energy levels to everyone. So
Look,
that,
I think in reality, you look at the majority of people in the world today, and most people think of their family unit as their sphere of loving kindness. You know, whether it be their partner and their children, and maybe their parents. But it depends on our ability to incorporate the whole world as our group of people, as our kinship. And that includes other living sentient beings as well. It's not just about human beings, it's also about creatures. And so, for example, some people, think, are Australians. I'm going to pray for, I'm going to meditate on all Australians. Some people may think of, I'm going to meditate on, the women in this world, or, some people, like you're saying, the engineers. But really, we're only limited by our own discrimination. As soon as we go beyond that, there is no reason why we cannot encompass the whole sentient, beings in our meditation. So I think a lot of people are disciplined to only think of their immediate family and friends, but I think that's very limiting.
can you explain what is compassion?
Compassion, if you break down the word compassion, what it means is with passion. So com means with, and passion. Again, this is a hugely misinterpreted word, because most people think of passion as being in an intimate relationship with one other partner, and the passion that they feel when they're intimate. But to me, passion means having a passion and an energy and a desire for everybody to have the same happiness. And so when we have that passion inside, passion is not a compassion is not a passive energy. It's actually quite an active energy, for me. And so when I am compassionate towards myself and towards others, there's a the connection between compassion and loving kindness is that we see people suffering and we want them to achieve and experience loving kindness. So that is compassion. Compassion is the link between suffering and what people have, and the actual liberating experiences that every person can have of loving kindness, and compassion is the link to those two things.
Wonderfully explained, Radha. Some of the explanations that you have given, majority I'm agreeing with. Definitely, compassion has an action. So it's actually loving kindness with an action. There's always an action with compassion, and then compassion is always outward. It's not inward. So it's not coming to me, my eye, that is for me and my understanding. Anyway, it's your understanding is this, and I respect that.
Yeah.
So how do you think, what is equanimity? Have you heard of equanimity? And
Equanimity. Yep.
how do you define equanimity in meditation and meditate mindset? Equanimity mindset.
To me, I use the word equilibrium a lot, and equilibrium is not just the absence of extremes, it's the balance of well-being. And therefore, when we talk about equilibrium or equanimity, we are talking about, for me, it's about not being drawn into extremes of likes or dislikes, or things that will cause me suffering. So equanimity in my mind is having a restful, peaceful state, and from that peaceful state, where I'm not grasping or trying to live outside of the present moment, that is when joy arises in me, and that is something that to me is gold. So that's what equilibrium means to me. What does it mean to you?
Equanimity is the state of mind that one can have. That is the best mindset for me. If you're going in a leadership way, I think any leader, if they wanted to have a best mindset, equanimity is the best mindset. When you're going in your leadership journey, if you have any other mindset other than the equanimity, it comes with kind of a toxic mindset. Toxic is there. So if you have the equanimity, you don't have that. So the equanimity, you cannot come to that mindset straight off. You have to come stage wise with loving kindness, compassion, and all together. So when you're in equanimity mindset, your mindset does not change, or it doesn't really affect you how others treat you. So if someone blames you, you act the same. If someone praises you, you act the same. If someone likes you, you act the same. If someone dislikes you, you act the same. If there's a profit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you much. If there's a loss, it doesn't affect you much. So in the leadership, it's one of the best mindset, or if anyone wanted to have a better mindset, I cannot think of any better mindset than equanimity. So the equanimity mindset is for me the antidote for the ego. When you're in this mindset, because your mind is not going, it's like a rock, so you don't get affected, and then your senses are a lot more disciplined in this mindset. So in this mindset, if you can achieve this mindset in a meditation, and if you can get the ultimate results, then you can go to a dhyana called Nevasanya Nasanya. So this is the eighth dhyana and also the fourth dhyana in the formless dhyanas. There's form dhyanas, the dhyanas with the form, and then the formless dhyanas. So the formless dhyanas, highest dhyana, or the fourth formless dhyana, or altogether all eight dhyanas, the eighth dhyana, you can get into that dhyana. So that is, if you, it's one of the highest meditation status as well in the equanimity. So that is equanimity for me. Yes. So
do you think
now,
that people can get into that state straight away, or is it a process of going through and developing and maturing your meditation to get to that level? Because to me, equanimity is something that has been that has taken a long time for me to really master in my own mind, and it's been a process to get to that level. Has it been the same for you, or have you always had that equanimity in your mind?
it depends person to person. If you ask me, it took me less effort, however it took time. I would say 1 year or 1.5 years. For some people, it will take them a lifetime, probably 50 years. Or some people, they will never get that even if they meditate their whole life. again, it comes to the past practices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's if you can get into that mindset, it is you are really lucky. And also, practice makes perfect. It you will get closer to it. It doesn't matter after 20 years you have not got into it. You will eventually
Mm.
get there. So it's really important to practice, even though it's far away. So you can take one step at a time, and eventually you
Yeah.
will get close.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
You can't
Mm.
anything you can't get there overnight. It takes time. It
Yeah.
takes practice, maturity.
Yeah.
So how do you think the loving kindness and compassion and equanimity mindset can benefit the leadership skills of the youth?
I don't like the term youth because that's often associated with people who are, have are delinquents. Often people say the youth of today in a disparaging way. So to me, I like saying younger people or young people, and I think as with any generation, young people are looking forward to having mentors that they can look up to, and we need leaders who have loving kindness in their hearts, who have equanimity in their minds, who have an ability to show compassion to when people are suffering. Somebody once told me, this is my guru, Sadhguru. He basically said that any industry that we are in, whether we're a doctor or an engineer or a road sweeper, whatever occupation we have, there is only ever one occupation, and that is the occupation of well-being, human well-being. So I think anything that we do, whether we work as a teacher, really, it's not about subject matter that we're teaching. We're teaching human well-being. And we need leaders in these roles who have those three elements: loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity. And I think it's essential not only for younger people, but also for people who perhaps are older, who maybe have gotten into a cycle of mental illness or drug abuse or whatever it is, who are searching for answers. And this is why I think it's so important that we do have leaders who exhibit these qualities.
How do you think the family unit, the insights or the teachings or nurturing or the nature of the family that you get from mother and father affects the leadership of the children?
Well, the in the family unit, the mother and father, or the mother and mother, or father and father, whatever family unit there is, they are the leaders of their children, and they are the first leaders that children will look up to. So I think it's very important and very uh, it's fundamental in how a child develops, in how parents take on their leadership role, and whether they demonstrate and exhibit those qualities that are needed for their children to progress and develop, or they 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 are unable to, they themselves are not in that state of being at that stage. It doesn't take a qualification to get to become a parent. And so I think there is it's not necessarily a natural progression that if you become a parent, you naturally become the best type of leader. I think developing loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity is something that is not naturally taught in our society, especially in Western societies. So it's not until often you become much older and you take the path of spirituality and take the path of meditation, do you actually then look at those qualities as a way of life and a way of being. And unfortunately, there's a lot of children who are growing up who don't have that compass to measure themselves by.
Not in the sense, if it's majority, it affects majority of the children. So consequently, majority of the society has lost these leadership skills in the modern day. Do you agree with it?
I do. I look around in the world today and I don't see many leaders that I aspire to be like. To me, leadership and spirituality go hand in hand. Leadership and loving kindness go hand in hand. Leadership and compassion go hand in hand. So there's only a few people I see in this world who actually demonstrate that kind of leadership in how they act and how they are with other people.
I agree with that, especially when you think about the modern day leaders. You try to find a reason to want them, a good reason, because they have a lot of bad reasons. You try to find one good reason to want them, whereas in the past, we try to find one problem that they're having to eliminate them, because they have a lot of good qualities. We try to find one problem to eliminate them. Now we try to find one good reason to qualify them to what. So this is one of the
look, I think it's just the nature of society today that we are very focused on materialistic gain. We classify everyone as a consumer. That we put money as the pinnacle of success. So yeah, I think there's a whole contributing reason why societies are not developing the kind of leaders that we actually do need in this community, I think. But I think there's always hope. I think there's, the more that we are able to talk about these qualities that we've been talking about today, the more people will reflect, and the more people will see that perhaps it is a better alternative, a better way of being a leader.
wonderful examples from you. And also, can you explain what qualities that the modern day leaders can get from the leaders in the past? Whereas when you take the conflicts in the past, the great leaders have always come in front and led in front. Whereas modern day, it's part of the society, the conflicts, combats. So how do you think the modern day leaders can benefit by studying the leaders in the past?
Yeah, look, the kind of leaders that I in the past, I go back quite a long way. For example, in the Indian tradition, we have Shiva, who was not only a god of one of the gods of the universe, but he was actually supposedly a man as well, and he was the first ever yogi, the first ever person on this planet who was able to teach the techniques of yoga to other people. He forged a path of liberation. So That's in the Indian culture, and there's a lot of leadership qualities that he exhibited in his life through the stories that are told about his life. And obviously, Krishna is another person who is seen as a god-man kind of figure. And his life is, in terms of his life as a human being, is exemplary in the way that there was a huge war that was raging, and he tried every single thing possible to stop that war from happening. And he righted on the side of people who were doing the right thing and justice, and was able to give a teaching from a battlefield. So I think that that those are some examples of, for me, looking back in the past and seeing what kind of examples and leadership there can be moving forward. But obviously there's more recent historical figures. So for you, Nilendra, what kind of recent past figures do you look up to?
Since you spoke about the Indian history, King Asoka is a great example. So he's a great warrior. He led from the front. I can go back to Sri Lanka. So our army commander, I remember he got bombed when the war was happening. So his instant intestines were out of his stomach. He put them inside by one hand. It took months or probably more, around an year for him to get healed. However, after healing, he came back and again he went on and won the war. So in modern day, I feel, especially when I came to Australia, so it's like when you have the anger or the problems, you come into this vulnerable state and they encourage it to come into the vulnerable stage. And then you submit that anger. Then you cry. So the crying is encouraged in the modern philosophy. So the modern psychology itself is probably 30, 40 years old. Whereas if you take the Indian psychology or the Buddhist psychology or Hindu psychology, it goes back to like 2, 3,000 years or more, even 5,000 years. So it's practice and it has worked. So when the anger comes, then the sadness comes. So you submit. When you submit, you get into this submissive mindset. Then you get easily controlled, and then the governments or the the rulers or the society or the people easily get controlled. It's easier for the rulers to control when the people are submissive or submitting. This mindset destroys the leadership skills for me. So this is how I think the this can also used in a compassionate, loving kindness way with a proper mindset without going into the submissive mindset. Also, it can protect a country when a situation where your country is facing a war. If your army commander go in France and he starts crying, your whole army is losing the battle. So you cannot have that kind of a mindset. So it's for me it's like it's a mindset or it's a mindset that you cannot agree. Uh, so as the last question from the public speaking and joining to Toastmasters, if someone new wanted to join, what is your advice for them, and what is your advice for them to practice spirituality?
Wow. Look, I would say don't wait until this world crushes you into submission. I would say have courage and take action now. I'd recommend joining a public speaking organization like Toastmasters to develop and hone the communication skills. You definitely won't regret it. I would also say start being the leader you wish to see in others. Become a leader at work or in your social network. There's nothing stopping you from taking leadership qualities, for imbibing the loving kindness, the compassion, and the equanimity that is there inside of you. And for me, the spiritual journey is the only one that matters. So I would recommend not only committing yourself to communication and leadership, but also committing yourself to a meditation practice each and every day.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you.
It's a great honor to have you here today.
Thank you.
And I wish you good health and a long life.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, Nilendra.